Hey guys, what's up? This is Devashish Patwardhan and welcome to my new tech review channel. 2021 is almost over and we have some amazing phones available to buy today. Apple recently launched the iPhone 13s, but that is not what we're going to talk about today. Today, I have my iPhone XR that I bought in late 2018 and is now almost 3 years old. iPhone XR was launched alongside the iPhone XS and XS Max. So let's find out if this phone is still worth buying in 2021 and 22, or should you just avoid it and buy a newer iPhone, especially since it's priced at just $33,999 on Amazon, which makes it very affordable for most people. As you can see here, you only get the 64GB or the 128GB model on Amazon. The 64GB model is for 34,000 rupees and the 128GB model for 39,000 rupees. This is why this phone is worth considering. You get 6 color options for this phone, all of which are currently available on Amazon. Also, you get a 4.5 star rating for this phone, which is definitely a good thing. Also keep in mind that even the iPhone XR now does not come with a charger in the box anymore. So you have to buy a charger separately. You will only get the USB Type-C to Lightning cable in the box. Now the iPhone XR is not a very small phone, but compared to the Pro Max, it's not that large either. In fact, it fits right in between the regular iPhone 13 and the 13 Pro Max. You can see here that it's slightly taller than the regular iPhone 13, but much smaller than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. The funny thing, however, is that the iPhone XR has the same screen size as the regular iPhone 13, even though it's slightly bigger than the iPhone 13. Now this is because of two things. One is that the bezel on the iPhone XR is slightly thicker than that on the iPhone 13. And the other reason is the curved edges on the iPhone XR compared to the flat edges on the iPhone 13s. The iPhone XR gets an IP67 water and dust rating, which is good but not as good as the iPhone 13s which get the IP68 rating. Now the iPhone XR gets an all-screen design with a notch just like all other iPhones. However, the bezels on this phone are a bit thicker than the other iPhones. Now on the back, you will immediately notice that there is just one camera instead of 2 or maybe 3 cameras, which does look a bit odd. Apart from that, it has a glossy glass back which looks beautiful but only when kept clean. It is a fingerprint magnet, but then again, you'll probably use this phone with a case on. Now the side frame of this phone is made out of aluminium. And like all other iPhones, it has a lightning connector surrounded by 2 speaker grills and another speaker at the top. Overall, it's a very clean looking design, and not only does it look good, but it also feels very comfortable to hold. Now since this is not a very small phone, it's also not very easy to use with just one hand. My hands are fairly large, and yet I can't reach all the corners of this phone comfortably while using it with just one hand. This still isn't such a big problem as this phone does not tire your hand out like most big phones do, especially the Pro Max. Also, the curved edges do provide a better grip than the flat edges on the latest iPhones, especially when using it with just one hand. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I have used this phone for 3 years now without a screen protector, and yet there are no major scratches or dents on the screen. Even the phone's body has held up pretty well, which shows that this is a very durable phone. Now let's do a water test to demonstrate how water resistant this phone is. I'm not encouraging you to try this, but I have done it multiple times before and I'm certain that this phone can take it. This phone has an IP67 rating, but I have also done this with the iPhone 7 Plus, which has no official IP rating. But even that phone had no problem with water. The iPhone XR does hold up pretty well underwater. Let's take a look at the video that we shot. Not bad, right? The phone recorded this video underwater. This is when the phone came out of the water. So, as you can see, even if you drop the phone in water, you don't need to worry about it at all as this phone can resist water very easily. Moving on to the display of this phone, we have a 6.1-inch Liquid Retina HD LCD display. What this means is that this is not the same display that the latest iPhones have. The latest iPhones have OLED displays. Now, I won't say that this display is just as good as the OLED displays, but it really isn't bad at all. In fact, it is a very good display. It has a pixel density of 326 ppi, which is fairly good. It also goes up to 625 nits of maximum brightness, just like the iPhone 12, and is just about sufficient to use outdoors in broad daylight. The iPhone XR also has True Tone, which means that the display will adjust the white point to make white look like white under any lighting condition. It also has that amazing haptic feedback that iPhones are popular for. So it's certainly a very good LCD display, even though it's not the most modern. Now here is a comparison between the iPhone 12's OLED display and the iPhone XR's LCD display. As you can see here, the white color on both the displays is a bit different. This is probably because one has an OLED display while the other has an LCD display. The iPhone XR does not support HDR, which the iPhone 12 does. Let me know in the comments below if you see a major difference between both the displays. Now let's talk about the performance of this phone. To be honest, most iPhones available today perform well enough for majority of people. This iPhone is no exception. The iPhone XR comes with the A12 Bionic processor with a 6-core CPU and a 4-core GPU with an 8-core neural engine. It is very difficult to tell if that's good or bad without a few basic tests. So right here, I have opened a few tabs in Safari. I'm going to switch between these tabs quickly to see if the phone struggles to load any of these tabs or starts lagging at any time. Keep in mind that this is a 3-year-old phone and not a brand new one. So, switching between multiple tabs quickly is not too difficult for this 3-year-old A12 Bionic chip. Now let's move on to some multitasking tests. Here, I have a few apps running in the background that I recently started, and I'm going to switch between these apps repeatedly to see how the phone performs. This phone has 3 GB of RAM, which is adequate for most practical purposes, but sometimes you will find apps refreshing in the background, especially with heavier apps like Facebook. If you want more RAM, then you will have to go for the iPhone 11, which has 4 GB of RAM, but I don't know how much difference that will make. Now let's switch between these apps a little faster. So as you can see that app switching is not a big problem for this phone, and realistically, nobody even switches between apps so quickly anyway. Now on to some gaming tests. Now I'm not much of a gamer myself, but I have downloaded a fairly heavy game just to show you whether the phone's 4-core GPU can handle it. It does not take too long to load the game at least. One advantage of the single camera system that this phone has is that when you're playing a game, your fingers do not touch the camera lens, which is kind of a problem with other phones. Right away, this phone is not struggling at all. The graphics seem smooth enough and it does not feel like this is too much for this phone. The gaming experience on this phone is better than you'd expect. Graphics settings are set to very high and the frame rate is set to high. The phone is even very comfortable to hold as it is very light and the curved edges provide good grip. Now let's get out of the app and go to another app. Now let's open Safari. Changing tabs. And now let's go back to the game again and see if it's still working. And it is working. So as you can see, you can even multitask a little bit while you're gaming. So finally, even if you want to play some heavy games on this phone, it does the job pretty well. Moving on to that just one camera. The iPhone XR has a single 12 megapixel camera with a 1 by 2.55 inch sensor chip size. The sensor chip is slightly smaller than most competitors offer, but then again, Apple only recently increased the sensor chip size from 1 by 2.55 inch to 1 by 1.9 inch in the new iPhone 13 and 1 by 1.65 inch in the 13 Pros. You will find the same sensor chip size in the iPhone 12s as the XR. If you don't know much about the sensors inside the camera, basically the larger the sensor, the better and brighter images you get. Apart from this, the latest iPhones also still have only 12 megapixel cameras just like the XR. The XR's camera may seem like a reason to avoid buying this phone, but let me tell you that it really is not. You can shoot 4K videos at 60 frames per second with optical image stabilization just like the iPhone 12. Now the iPhone XR does have portrait mode, but this portrait mode has only 3 lighting effects. But if you switch over to the front camera, you get 6 lighting effects in the portrait mode. However, the front camera is just a 7 megapixel camera instead of a 12 megapixel camera in the latest iPhones. So if you do take a lot of selfies, then you may want to consider the iPhone 11 or maybe the iPhone 12 as well. I'm not saying that there is no upgrade in the latest iPhones, but the difference may be very big for some people and at the same time very small for others. Now let's compare some photos I captured with the iPhone XR, the iPhone 12 mini and the latest iPhone 13 Pro Max. Please let me know in the comments below what your opinion about the XR's camera is. Now the XR does miss out on some important features like an ultra-wide camera, a telephoto camera, and even night mode. If you're somebody who is going to need any of these missing features and a good camera system is your priority, then by all means you should go for a newer phone. However, this camera too is very good and I'm sure that in most cases the iPhone XR's camera will do quite well. Now let's talk about the battery of this iPhone XR. As you know, this phone is an old phone and so the battery health of this phone is now just 87%. So a battery test on this phone will not give correct results. However, Apple claims that you can get up to 16 hours of video playback time on this phone compared to 17 hours on the iPhone 12. So that is not a very big difference. Now let's talk about connectivity. This phone does not support 5G. Now that could be a deal breaker for many people, especially because the world is moving on to 5G networks. However, here in India, I'm not sure if we will see 5G anytime soon, and even if we do, it will be long before people start using 5G the way we use 4G today. So if you think that 5G is something that you should have, you will have to go for the 12 or the 13. Even the iPhone 11 does not have 5G. Apart from 5G, this phone also misses out on one more important feature, which is gigabit LTE. What this means is that you will receive slightly faster speeds on 4G LTE if you have the iPhone 12 or the iPhone 13, which do have gigabit LTE. Now, on Apple's official website, Apple claims that the iPhone 11 has gigabit class LTE while the iPhone 12 has gigabit LTE. Now, I don't know what the difference between the two is, but for sure, iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 will get better speeds than the iPhone XR. Here is a speed test that I did from my house in Mumbai on Jio LTE. This is the iPhone XR while this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max. As you can see, there is a significant difference in the speed test, and this is due to the gigabit LTE that only the iPhone 12s and the iPhone 13s have. So, who would I recommend this phone to? If you're somebody who loves using iPhones or wants to upgrade from an older iPhone or maybe wants to buy their first iPhone, then this phone is a great buy at just 34,000 rupees. The reason this phone is still on sale is because it is a great entry level iPhone with almost all the necessary basic features. Also keep in mind that since it's an iPhone, you can still expect future software updates to come to this phone for another 3 to 4 years, so you don't have to worry about that. Other than that, if you don't care about the latest new cool features like ultra wide camera, telephoto lens, OLED displays, flat edges, cinematic mode, better 4G speeds, some camera features, 5G, slimmer bezels, and a few more things, then you can consider buying this phone for sure. It is a great phone and will do everything that you ask it to do. If you care about any of the things that I mentioned above, then by all means you should buy a phone that makes you happy and has all these features. Personally, I think the lack of gigabit LTE is a deal breaker for me. It is the only reason why I would recommend the 11 instead of the 10R. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and I will be back with more such videos. Thank you once again for watching this video. Have a great day.